What's this EF for?
Battery check, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, we're on, right?
Right.
Okay. So we're just gonna say, we'll edit all of it out. So, are we all clear on that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. 3, 2, 1. Well, today we brought our camera to beautiful Berryville, Arkansas, and we're in the Saunders Museum. And here with us we have Ms. Hazel Prentice and Mr. Harold Emmett, and they're going to be taking us through the museum, telling about it's unbelievable. Y'all won't believe what's down here. So they're going to tell us about some of the things that we're going to be seeing. We'll be walking around in just a minute. So, and we'll be out of here anyway. Anything y'all want to say at this point?
We're happy to have you
Okay.
today.
All right, well, hold up. Say that same thing.
We're happy to have you all here today.
And we appreciate it. And see, we're live. We get the phone ringing and everything. That's fine. We'll just one. All right, we're going to be just walking through the museum, and Miss Prentice and Mr. Emmett are going to take us on a little tour. And I think you'd have to stay about a week to see everything that's here. But Miss Prentice, just go ahead. Just walk us through it, please, ma'am.
All righty. This is chair. Here, the overstuffed chair is made out of buffalo hide. We also have a Tiffany type lamp over in the corner, which is
See
a
if I
very
can get
beautiful
that.
lamp.
Oh, isn't that pretty? Isn't that pretty?
Very beautiful.
Now, how old would you say that buffalo hide chair might be?
Oh, 75 or 80 years old, anyway.
My goodness, isn't that something? This is the, you have a lot of one-of-a-kind furniture items in here, I believe.
Yes, we sure do. And this is a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Saunders on the table.
Let's get a little close-up of them there. Now, he was a rather interesting character, wouldn't you say? From what?
He was a very, very nice character. He really was. He was very interesting. He was very fond of hunting, fishing, things like that.
And Mr. Emmett said that, in fact, he was a very fine marksman himself. Now, you said he traveled all over the world to get. Now, tell me about that owl over there.
Well, that's from Alaska. That is a snow owl.
Let's ease in for a close-up of that.
It's getting very, very old.
Well, it is as pretty as it can
It's a
be.
beautiful owl.
There's so many things in this museum that are just so unusual. It's very difficult for us to stand here and get the magnitude of just what we're seeing. What about this old?
The lamp.
What about the lamp? Yes, ma'am.
The lamp used to be a gas lamp. It's been changed over to electricity, but it used to be an old gas lamp.
Well, what about that bench there in the corner?
That is all teak wood. There's a number of pieces
Ease around. I'll
of
get
teak wood.
a little.
We have the game table, 2 chairs, also a little stool, and this teak wood was 400 years old when Mr. Saunders bought it, between 1906 and 1908.
Well, that is unbelievable.
The screen also is teak wood, and the birds are made out of wood, and they're covered in mother of pearl.
That is fabulous. So.
And small pieces about the size of your little fingernail.
Isn't that something? Let me ease up. I want to get close up to those birds. It's hard to imagine the artistry, the detail on those birds, and hopefully I won't shake the camera enough. Isn't that something? Isn't that amazing?
These Persian rugs on the floor here are quite valuable also.
Because
Made Persian rugs.
isn't that something?
And we have a number of them here.
Isn't that something? Tell me about this over here in the corner, please, ma'am.
The desk
Yes,
is
ma'am.
teak wood. It is also teak wood.
Now, where did he get these? Where did
In
Mr.
China.
Saunders? In China.
In China. And they were all 400 years old when he
When he bought them.
them. That was between 1906 and 1908.
Well, folks, those of you who are seeing this, you just can't imagine a collection this fabulous being anywhere, but here we are in rural Arkansas, and one, the countryside is so pretty, such a lovely place, and I can't imagine a nicer location, one for a vacation, and I'm not just doing promo for northern Arkansas, but it's such a lovely place to have a vacation, and then this museum is something on the order of some of these things I'm sure the Smithsonian in Washington does not have in their collection. So it is amazing. We're on here. Now tell me about this picture. Let me cut the light. We'll edit this, okay. Tell me about this. Let's see if I can get it out from glare.
Just a minute.
Okay.
I can't.
Oh, this fine. We got it.
Do it.
How about
Peasant Girl. I never can.
How about Peasant Girl, painted by Guercino Giovanni Francesco Barberi,
Yeah.
or whatever?
It was purchased in 1910 by Mr. and Mrs. Saunders.
No matter where they're standing, she's in the room she's looking at.
That is beautiful.
It is a beautiful picture.
Now tell us about this clothing over here.
This is clothing that Mr. and Miss Saunders wore in the early days.
Isn't that pretty?
It's well preserved too. The dress is of Italian. It's cut, hand cut.
Isn't that something? Now, friends, they had a lot of money and they spent it.
They loved it.
Oh, isn't that something? Well, we'll just go ahead and take this since we're here. Just
Now some of the
Oh, yeah.
jewelry is out of bracelets are made.
here we have a rosewood desk. And they, of course, have a lovely collection of china. Of course, the old original wash bowl. Friends, before there was indoor plumbing and you wanted a sink in your hotel room, this was your washing and shaving equipment right there. And from some motels we've had to stay in on the road, I think they might have been better off. A beautiful china collection.
It's very heavily laden with
And
gold.
silver, my goodness. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? All that's heavy gold inlay. I can't wait to show this to my parents when we get home. Okay, let's just walk through.
And then here's the vase collection. They tell us, some of the collectors tell us that there's some very valuable pieces in that.
Well, I believe that is a beautiful up on top there. That is a beautiful vase. And we'll look right here. Isn't that something?
Over on this side we have some very unusual salt beds.
Now, say that again for me, please, ma'am.
Over on this side we have some very unusual salt beds. This is what they use to open their clams and things with. This is what they ate them with.
Isn't that something? Now, what is this little dish right here that's so ornately a silver and crystal dish there?
This?
Yes,
It's a
ma'am.
honey dish.
A honey dish.
Uh-huh.
Now, isn't that something?
A honey dish.
Well, there's a spoon on the other side. It's a melon spoon.
Yes.
Specially shaped.
Well, let's see, of course.
This cheek years
So-
and years ago.
Now, friends, if you ever want to go to the desert and camp out, this is doing it in style. Mr. Saunders won this in a shooting match. Is that correct, Miss Prentice?
Right.
From an Arab sheik. Well, I'll tell you what, that's ironic because we may have another shooting match with them over there any time.
How true.
Let's hope we win the tents.
This pin. It's made with gold thread.
With gold thread.
It's made with gold thread.
And the signature up there is the women's names that made each one of his wives made a panel. That's her signature on that, their names.
Isn't that something?
The tin itself is huge when it's set up.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
large, very large.
Now tell me about this Egyptian over here in,
Those are Egyptian wall hangings.
isn't that something? And then some of these clothes here, these things hanging on.
Yes, this is clothing that they collected all over the world, from all different parts of the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just have to see it to
There's
believe it.
Arabic pottery here. There's also hand-woven blankets, scarves from India.
Isn't that something? And now what is, if this is from Italy, well, I mean,
These are from Belgium in this case.
if you can imagine the time and handwork that these things must have
Also
taken.
from Persia.
These are some of the personal things of Mr. and Ms. Saunders in this case right here. Mr. Emmett just said a moment ago that he was a little picky about his shaving. He had a different razor for every day of the week. So we were just talking, I'll bet you Donald Trump doesn't have anything like this. Miss Prentice said if he didn't, he ought to. And this is something you certainly don't see much of. We have, if I can get it past the glare, they're mustache brushes. Well, he was a gentleman, wasn't he? I mean, he was,
Oh, yeah.
shall we say, I mean, he parked uptown. Yes. Mr. Emmett, just come over and say that again, please, sir. Tell us about this china.
The experts tell us this china is very valuable, $500 to $1,000 per piece. 24 karat gold plated with French hand painted designs in the center.
That is unbelievable. Us and our camera cannot do it justice. Unbelievable. These gold-plated, looks like salt shakers, and I guess when the President of the United States stopped by, this is what they'd get out and serve on. Maybe. Isn't that something?
And it is turned opposite for the Nazis. The
This
Germans.
is, oh, okay. This is some original Indian handiwork, and these are weaved baskets. Am I correct, Miss Prentice?
Yes, they are. And the swastika for the Germans was turned different than the Indian. It's an old Indian.
That's an old Indian symbol. That's not a swastika. It was turned, like you say, turned the other way for the symbol that Germany used. And down here was something, we had a neighbor that sat down on a box of blasting caps on a construction job site one time and was eating lunch, and you know the box blew up while he was sitting there and blew him about 30 or 40 feet in the air, and it hurt him some, but he got over it. That's a true story. Now, tell me about this old pipe here. Now, what is that?
It's an old German pipe.
Well, I guess that's what they call a cool smoke right there. Time you got to the end of that tube, and of course, here in this room we've got a fabulous collection of antlers, and we'll make a quick scan here. We've got some mounted. There's a moose head, and that what's that bird over there in the corner? Miss Prentice, on top of that gun case there.
Oh, that's an eagle. An eagle.
A beautiful mounted eagle. Let's get a little closer to that if we can.
That is not a bald eagle, but it is an eagle.
Unbelievable. And they were talking about over in the case on my left, which is right here. These boots were made by Sitting Bull's one of his daughters, and in fact, they look like they were made much more recently, but they're so well preserved. These folks have gone to such great pains and preservation. They're beautiful even today. Now, friends, I hope you just hadn't finished supper, because this right here, I'll get a little closer with this is Geronimo's scalp belt. At one time, some nice folks wore that hair. That, in fact, is the real McCoy. That is amazing. Isn't that something?
So this is the Sitting Bull's vest that he was wearing when he was killed. The bullet hole is still there.
The bullet hole is still in that vest. Sitting Bull's vest he was wearing when he was killed. And I suppose that's his headdress.
Yes, it is. It sure is.
Well, things like this are just priceless. You know, when you start talking about American history, you see something like this and you just, your mind cannot fully conceive of the magnitude of the importance of some of these things. That is amazing. Okay, here we have Confederate Isn't that something? I'm trying to get this. Of course, we have some original Confederate money, and for those people that said save your Confederate money, it'll be worth something more. I mean, this is worth a lot more than it was when it was new. Isn't that something? Of course, these are some of the stuffed. Have a stuffed ram and some magnificent deer here. Those elk antlers on the wall above the Indian artifacts case, that set of elk antlers is probably, if not the largest set in recorded set, it would be way, way up in the record book. Amazing.
Beside there.
This is, how about, this belonged, some of these things belonged to Buffalo Bill Cody of Wild West show fame. And of course, all these things are in remarkable condition. You can tell. Hopefully the glare won't be too bad. A woman's three-horn saddle. Now, I really don't understand what that is, but
An old side saddle.
an old side saddle, okay. Isn't that something?
They're very old. It's an old Egyptian.
And if we run these batteries down, we've got another one out there. So this, looking in the case here, and I believe it's going to be good, this is an original Lamat revolver. Now, these were made in France and carried by a number of Civil War officers, because they were very expensive even then. But this is a 9-shot 44 caliber revolver with a 65 caliber or 20 gauge shotgun essentially on the in the center. And Mr. Emmett, tell us what you just did. Why did they have so desperately want that 9-shot revolver?
Some of the historians tell us that that was made so that when the enemy seen run out of 6 shots on the 6-shooters, that they would rush the man firing, and that they replaced that with this so they'd have 3 more shots to shoot at the enemy while he was rushing them, and then if that didn't get him, they would shoot him with the shotgun.
Well, sir, I would say the man had a darn good chance. Of course, those of you watching, you just have to come see this collection. They've got such an unusual collection. I believe you have over 800 handguns. Is that right, Mr. Emmett?
Yes, sir. All in working condition.
All in working condition. In other words, everything here is in mechanically sound condition, which can't be said for a lot of other memorabilia museums. Just fantastic things. Here's a Confederate Colt in the center of our picture, which is a gun well, all these things are in excellent condition. My goodness. Well, let's walk in. Of course, these on the wall here, we have cases, original scabbards and cases for guns. Let's see.
All this case is flintlock pistol.
We have a number of front-loader single-shot percussion-type black powder pistols. And this is, for those of you interested, this is where the term pistol actually came from, if I'm historically correct here, because a lot of people mistakenly call a revolver a pistol, but the term pistol actually came from these single-shot handguns such as this. And we're going to see in just a few minutes one of the earliest handguns. So let's see, we have a Merwin and Hobart. Of course, each one of these guns is listed with whatever historical data is available. My goodness.
Here's an Egyptian sword that's over 2,000 years old.
Years old. It's a very, very old.
Now, since we're in this particular room, I don't want to miss this. This on the bottom there, is that right, sir?
Yes.
This piece right here, and I know we've got a little glare, and let me try from the other side, we can get this out. Cut my light, I want to get this. This particular item is an Egyptian sword that is over 2,000 years old. Boy. Isn't that amazing? Now, what is this piece on the end here, this particular, what is that, sir? I would venture that would be some sort of...
A bayonet, I would say, to go on the rifle.
My goodness. Part of this, because we have a case here of Hopkins and Allen and Whitney small revolvers. And of course, you have a collection that took a lifetime of this gentleman and vast sums of money to accumulate. But it is fabulous.
This is all Colt.
And here is a fabulous Colt collection. These are a number of double-action Colt models. They were very interesting in the way they worked. They were not particularly durable, but they're very famous nonetheless. My goodness, these what is so unusual, the condition these fine old guns are kept in.
You was talking about the workmanship. Look at these. There's two of those in this collection. And the guns, the barrels slide upward as they shoot.
Now this particular handgun, this is one of the original, this is a 25 caliber 4-barrel gun, and as the gun is manipulated, the barrels actually move up by mechanical means. And there's a pepper box next to it. How about that? And this particular gun has a bayonet that unfolds, and it's a French 11mm 6-shot pinfire double-action revolver. How about that?
And here's a 20-shot.
And as we come over on the left of this particular case, for those folks that talk about a revolver not having enough firepower, I hope I can get in here without glare. This is a 20-shot revolver. How about that? A 30 caliber Lefaucheux pinfire 20-shot double-action, double-barreled revolver. Isn't that is amazing. I hope I can get that. I want to show that. Now this is interesting. Here's a Mauser single-action military revolver. And I think, I stand to be corrected, but I think this automatically indexes for successive single-action shots. I think so. Here's a 10-shot pinfire revolver. Of course, here we have a collection of Mausers, and we have Of course, an original German Luger. Now tell us what we have here, sir.
Well, this is a collection of single shots. In this end of the case, that 410 shotgun pistol that was outlawed, very few of those made, and just assorted collection of single shot handguns.
Now what is this right here with?
That's to go on this to make a rifle.
Okay, a shoulder stock, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a Stevens handy gun or? Okay, sure enough. I don't know if this is particular one's not, but.
Yeah, that's.
Now, I understand that people with bicycles and horses used to have these long when dogs would get after them, and they'd run the dogs back.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now this is Mr. Saunders' second gun collection. His first one was destroyed in an earthquake in San Francisco.
Well, say that one more time, sir.
This is Mr. Saunders' second gun collection. His first collection was destroyed in the earthquake of San Francisco.
Now this is an original.
Of San Francisco.
Now this is an original volcanic pistol. It's a lever action repeating pistol, and this was the beginning of the Winchester rifle. And this is serial number 560. Is that fabulous? It's got a solid brass frame. The Winchester repeaters and certainly the Winchester Arms Company got its beginnings in this particular handgun. That's a 40 caliber on top, and this is a 30 caliber on the bottom. That is nothing short of fantastic. Now, of course, some of these other things. Here's a Sharps Derringer right here. And of course, Remington got into the small handguns also. There's a Remington 4-barrel double action Derringer. How about that? Okay, we're on. They have a wonderful collection of U.S. Marshall, as in military handguns, and have some most unusual pieces. A lot of these things were experimental in the way they worked and operated. But ladies and gentlemen, here is an original production Colt Walker 1847. And they only made a little over 1,000 of these guns. Colt's price to the government was $28 each. And of course, this is an excellent condition Colt Walker. It is shootable. However, being that it is worth somewhere between $50,000 and $300,000, nobody in their right mind would shoot it. But it is amazing. Incidentally, the museum has 3 original Colt Walkers. We'll be shooting one of these, a reproduction, a little bit later on in the program. So I think everyone will be interested. You know, this was the first Magnum revolver, and until 1935, it was, in fact, the most powerful revolver that was manufactured. Did you know that?
12-inch barrel?
Nah. Did you know that was the most powerful revolver until 1935 when
Well,
57?
that's what I've been told.
That's correct.
I'm no expert on guns. They just kind of got me up here to.
Oh my! I want to be sure you get it.
Now let's see. You missed these 3 cases here. I don't know whether there's anything in here.
But you know what I'm going to do when I go home? I'm going to study this tape. You know?
I think these is not too.
Let's see, 3rd model Smiths, 30.
There's one serial number.
See, they
534.
got all mixed up with each other. They started, they work out each other's license. You know, the old boy who had the Rowlands White patent that for the cased cartridge went to Samuel Colt, and he said, look, you can put your powder in here and your bullet in there and just put this in the gun. You know, Colt said, no, it never worked.
Yeah.
Never worked. So, let me just get a shot of these. These are original Frontier model top brake Smith & Wessons. This nickel-plated gun is a .44 Russian double-action Navy model produced in 1881. In fact, I didn't know until today, of course I don't claim to be a historian, but I'm interested in gun history, of course. I didn't know that Smith & Wesson made a double action that early.
Here's a pretty old serial number weapon.
This is most unusual. This gun in the center of these three that we see on the screen is a .45 caliber Schofield, or Schofield, ever how that's pronounced. It's a single-action Army revolver, serial number 780. Most unusual piece. The piece on the left is a .22 caliber single-shot target pistol, and made very much like their revolvers, and it's a top brake hinge in front of the trigger guard. And of course, it's in like new condition.
Here's a hammerless. I didn't know they made such an hammer.
And here's one of the original Smith & Wesson top brake safety hammerless. And of course, today we have the new model 640 from Smith & Wesson, which essentially is the same principle. And it was a great idea then, and it certainly is again today. That's amazing. Here a collection of Colts. We were looking at the Colt Walker a little bit earlier. Now this particular one, if I can get in here without glare, that we're looking at, the second up from the edge of the case, is a third model 1848. It's a .44 caliber percussion. And you'll notice on the end of the barrel they have a catch that holds the rammer in place. It's a positive stop on the rammer, because originally when they'd shoot some of the Walkers, the rammer might fall down and it would tie up the gun temporarily. Colts. They have a wonderful collection of Colt revolvers and auto-loading handguns. But this particular one, if I can ease up here and get away from the glare, you folks out there, forgive me. This is serial number 12, .38 caliber double action Marine Corps model of 1905, serial number 12. This is one of the last guns he got, Mr. Saunders got on his birthday. It's a .32 caliber Bisley, and it is in wonderful condition, target model. Just for the sake of we're here, this is amazing. This is a little tiny gun. Let me get away from the glare. This is a 2mm vest pocket firearm, vest pocket pistol, made especially for Mr. Saunders and by E.C. Bayer, I believe. Now that. And we also want to look at this case right here. Here's a Colt single action .45, single action Army in case, and this particular target was shot by Mr. Saunders when he was I'll get it in a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, babe, wait. Don't talk much. It's going on TV. Mr. Saunders shot this particular target in 1933. I want you folks to see this. Shot this at 20 yards. He was over 70 years old when he did. And also here's a beautiful Colt 357 single action Army. And this gun is gold plated. And let me tell you what, you just have to see it to believe it. I want to be real sure to get this particular case in. Friends, this is the beginnings. We're talking about the beginnings of handguns here. This is an old front loader that they put the powder and a ball or whatever they were going to shoot down the muzzle here, and they actually touched it off with a wick in the back. And you folks have to see this. They actually fired it by a wick that came out of the top of the rear of the barrel. And that is, of course, there's no way of knowing at this point. This gun may be 800 or 900 years old. this particular, moving along here here was a matchlock, and this particular little gun dates from the year 1450 AD. And of course, these were very highly refined mechanisms. It's really amazing how well they did work. And here are a couple of matchlocks. This one is from the year 1515, and they're just in fabulous condition for their age. And this particular exhibit that I'm looking at now, that hopefully all of us can see, is where the cartridge came from. These were original percussion caps, and somebody figured out later on that you could put a ball in an elongated cap and you'd have a cartridge, but you wouldn't have to go to all the trouble of, you'd have a preloaded cartridge, in other words. Let's see. Now, where are we? Show me the
outlaw guns.
The outlaw guns.
Okay. These are all the outlaw guns. This is too over in there. And we have a Bowie knife over there. I'm sure you'd be interested.
Yeah, it's the original Bowie knife.
All right, let's see. We're on. Now, this is what they call here in the museum, this apprentice calls the outlaw table, because they have a number of guns here that belong to, well, let's start up here in the corner. Let me escape the glare. Cherokee Bill. Here is a 45 Colt single action. All it belonged to Cole Younger, people that you might be familiar with. And here is a gun that belonged to Quantrill himself. Oh, we got to get that. We've got to get that. And of course, Jesse James was one of Quantrill's raiders. This gun in the center of your screen was one of Jesse James' personal firearms, and I believe he used this particular gun to kill 5 deputies when they tried to arrest him. In other words, Jesse James was no lightweight. Jesse James was not a wimp.
No. No.
And this gun, tell us the history of how this gun was found.
Mr. Dunway and his father found this gun in a bucket of lard in a fireplace, hidden in a fireplace. And Mr. Dunway, Sr., traded that to Mr. Saunders as how come the museum to have it.
And they've got the original note that was with the gun that lends its authenticity. Now that you could have a museum just on that one piece alone. And moving along, we have some guns from Frank James. We have a gun here, and I'm going to have to cut the camera off and look at these a little closer. Here's one in the center of your screen that belonged to Billy the Kid. So in fact, we've got a couple of them, 41 Colts. He apparently liked the concept of double action because he carried double action 41 Colts pretty frequently.
A hole in the barrel is made from a tube of
This particular gun that we're looking at right now is made of wood. It was made from a toilet seat by an individual who was in jail, and this is pretty amazing because from a distance of more than a foot it looks real. And he used this to escape from jail. So, well, that's amazing. And speaking of outlaws, the gun next to the wooden hand-carved toilet seat special there belonged to Pancho Villa. A real pretty Colt 45 single-action Army revolver with ivory grips. And if you can look on the butt of the grip there, it says Pancho Villa. That is amazing. The most famous, or shall we say, notorious ladies of ill repute, this was Belle Starr's personal handgun, which was a .38 caliber Manhattan percussion revolver. With this revolver, Belle Starr killed, if I can read this here, killed the sheriff of Elm Street, on Elm Street in Dallas, Texas, in a running gunfight in 1889. It says later that year she was shot in the back and killed on her way home after riding part way to Fort Smith with Jim Starr, who was to be tried there for stealing horses. This is an original, genuine Bowie knife. This knife was made by the famous Colonel Bowie and presented to his friend, Captain Thomas Tunstall, in 1833 at White River in the Arkansas Territory. And this knife belonged to Buffalo Bill, William F. Cody. When I'm recording for my father, because I want him to be able to read this. Here we go. It says here, this is a knife used by William F. Cody in his hand-to-hand battle with Chief Yellowhand of the Cheyennes. This fight, in which Chief Yellowhand was killed, occurred July 17, 1876, while Buffalo Bill was scouting under General Merritt, immediately following the Custer Massacre on Little Bighorn. Now that is a piece of history right there. Here we have William F. Cody's .38 caliber 1851 Navy Colt, or Buffalo Bill, as we said earlier. This revolver belonged to Annie Oakley. It's a Colt 4440 single action. And some other things we may be of interest. This Pony Bill, who was a very famous regional character, his single action army. Another gun from Buffalo Bill. And this last model on this table was a Colt percussion Navy revolver, 36 caliber, made in the London Colt factory. A lot of people weren't aware of that, but Colt had a factory in London. This was carried for 20 years by a guard in the Tower of London. A Remington. This is a Remington 8-gauge pistol, and it's a signal pistol. In fact, I wonder if it had any recoil. And moving along, here's a gun that Mr. Saunders, is this the one that he won from the Arabs?
Yes.
This is a flintlock blunderbuss. Its entire stock is inlaid with fine silver wire. They said this was held in the hand and fired like a pistol. So, my goodness, talk about choke. That would probably be super cylinder open bore. Now we're coming over to a cabinet here filled with original Philadelphia Derringers. Here's where the term Derringer comes from. Henry Derringer Jr., manufactured the small size pistols beginning about 1850, and all of his guns had ceased production by the late 1870s. But many other small guns which were similar in operation, and in fact Abraham Lincoln was shot with a Derringer type single shot pistol, but many of them were called Derringers, and in fact they were Derringer types. But this is a terrific collection, and a lot of concepts back in the 1800s had not been tried, so people would build things and they'd try them and see if they would work. So, of course, here we have a collection of flintlocks. This is a particularly unique piece. It's a double-barreled 60 caliber over and under flintlock made about 1800 by John Manton in London. So, friends, that's a serious weapon right there. And this flintlock is most unusual because it's silver plated. So how about a Springfield model 1818 pistol? Only 1,000 of those guns were made. To my father, I mentioned I want to be certain. Bonnie and Clyde met their Waterloo back, about 10 miles behind our farm in North Louisiana. And this was, Mr. Emmett, tell me the story on this hat, please, sir.
He and Bonnie robbed the bank up in Missouri, and when they came close to Reed Springs, Missouri, Clyde lost his hat and Mr. Saunders inherited it. So we have Clyde Barrow's original hat in our museum.
So Clyde got the money, but he lost his hat.
Right.
This particular single action 45 caliber Colt owned by Pawnee Bill, I forgot to mention earlier, was used during to open the Oklahoma land rush. And so this literally is the gun that fired the shot that opened the settlement by white people of Oklahoma.